just like that, Dean's disappeared just as the show starts to walk the dog. He just, this is the joy of working with Dean. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the FiveStack. It's good to be with you. I hope this is broadcasting across all your various feeds, and we'll check in a second to make sure it is. But look who's here. Jacob Carsbo's joined us from, you are here, and that's good. You're now a best-selling author, which is amazing and well due and appropriate. And we'll talk about your book as well as all your amazing insights into what's going on in the Middle East. All of that is coming up. How are you doing, Jacob?
Oh, really, really well. It's been a long time. It's good to be here again. To see you.
It's good to have you here. And look, Dean's back. Hey, Dean.
Hi, I just had to deal with the dog that was barking. Chances are it's going to happen again. She's indomitable. Good to see Jacob Carsbo today. Welcome to the FiveStack, everybody. And if you don't know who Jacob Carsbo is, you do. He's a best-selling author. Subverted is the name of his book. And not only is he a best-selling author, he's also a former Danish intelligence officer, UN Security Council member, and a lot of shit's going on in the world that we could use him for today. How are you today, brother? You all right?
No, I'm good. And I actually used to be the top spook for the Middle East in the Danish service. So I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East and with the Quds Force, battling them in Iraq and Lebanon and Syria and all those places. So yeah, I know these guys, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, that's why.
What
so
better guy to have
here
on the show? Yeah, exactly.
I can do the jump into the 5 news, right? The top 5 breaking news. Unless, Dean, you want to ramble on about something else that's super important?
Ground
news. We do want to talk about ground news.
I was going to say, I was waiting for you to do the ground news intro. You talked about it before because ground news is one of our sponsors. But let's. I know it's like a goldfish, but let's just start there. Because are you telling me that I start our shows with incandescent ramble all the time? Are you telling me that is that what you're doing? Is you insulting me?
I'd like to think of it as a monologue of you expressing your views on
inner
things.
frustrations.
I love it. It's how I get tuned into the day's events, into the vibe of the day. I get it from you.
No, dude, I'll tell you what, the FiveStack today, brought to you by our friends at Ground News, and we'll get to our friends at Ground News. FiveStack's your promo code 40% off, by the way, groundnews.com, FiveStack, your promo code 40% off. This FiveStack is going to be really important for everybody today because no matter what Donald Trump says, no matter the rhetoric that comes out of any press conference, and he's a nightly press conference guy now, because he is literally underwater. This thing is so out of control in the Middle East, and we'll get Jacob's intake on this. This thing is a powder keg already. It is a war he cannot win asymmetrically. It is a war that he is not prepared to fight. He doesn't have the munitions. He doesn't have the scrote. He doesn't have the reputation. And I think it's going to be really important to pay attention to Jacob today, folks, because not only was he the wazir in the Middle East? The wazir. He was the chief of the bureau in the Middle East for Danish intelligence, but he's also a UN Security Council member. So let's get into it, specifically with number 5, and let's really lean on Jacob today. And folks, I need everybody to follow him. Hit the Chiron at the top. Give him a follow. He just got his first check mark. Let's get him a couple of more because he is Sherpa-ing us with Malcolm Nance in his daily briefings, which are absolutely incredible. If you get a chance to subscribe to Jacob, subscribe to Malcolm. These guys are keeping tabs on what's going on a daily basis, and it's truly incredible content, brother. Great job.
Yeah, thanks. And Malcolm is meticulous, so when he gets down in these weapon systems and how you could block the Strait of Hormuz and et cetera, he's off to the races, and it's good fun.
Well, let's begin with the big breaking news then today. It's day 11 in the war in Iran. 140 people are wounded, American troops are wounded. 7 are dead. That's official count. But really, that's just part of the story. This morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood in front of the Pentagon press corps and promised what he called the most intense day of strikes yet. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes, intelligence more refined and better than ever. The Pentagon confirms 140 American service members have been wounded since the start of the war 11 days ago. 8 are severely injured right now. 7 are dead. And Tehran is not backing down. As you would know, the IRGC says Iran, not Donald Trump, will determine when this war will end. let's talk about this death count, and then let's also talk about the terms that he's using. Even, it almost sounds like a reality show, Jacob. The extreme nature of his descriptions. Everything's going to get more intense and more exciting, and and the reality is, you've got 8 servicemen who are now dead.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Hegseth and his boss, the president, they seem to believe that wars are a computer game, and this is how they talk. And but they're only fooling, themselves, because meanwhile the Iranians, they don't really give a shit, to be honest. They don't like, of course, when people get killed, and when Mustaba's dad, the old Ayatollah, got killed, etc., etc. But they'll keep going, and it'll be more of a death cult now going forward than what it was. And that's the terrible thing, because these guys behave like a death cult, and they're not going to say, okay, we didn't mean it. Have that 450, 460 kilos of highly enriched uranium, and we'll just take it easy and eat our dates and drink our tea. But that's not going to happen. So
Yesterday, sorry.
No, that's all right. Come on, sir.
No, yesterday he mentioned that the president walked into the Trump Republican House meeting, and he said, "We've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough." Then he walked to the cameras and said that the war is pretty well complete and will be over very soon. It doesn't look like it's actually going to be over very soon at all. He says,
and then Pete Hegseth said it was only just started, and then a journalist asked Trump, "What do you mean? Is it started or is it over? What?"
And he's like, "It's a little bit of both."
A little bit of both.
My brain freezes, man.
Did you see that yesterday? Did you see him? It's like, okay, so there was one reporter that was like, "Okay, listen, dude. You just said it's very nearly complete after a phone call with Putin. However, your press secretary, or let's call him a press secretary, he's not a secretary of war, was like, we're just getting started. We're going to hammer the fuck out of these guys till September at least." And he goes, "It's a little bit of both." It's like,
it's crazy when you really think about it. There's no strategy. There's no plan. They're running out of ammunition by all accounts. I mean, this is a recipe for disaster. On top of that, the Energy Secretary is now posting that the U.S. Navy warship had escorted an oil tanker through the Straits of Hormuz. That was a lie, or untrue, or something, or a market manipulation. But there was no U.S. Navy warship helping any tankers through the Straits of Hormuz, although oil prices did change on the news. This is a very out of coordination, not very well constructed war effort at all. They really don't know what they're doing, or maybe they do. They're just trying to, juice the markets. But either way, it looks terrible.
And exactly the same thing with the Strait of Hormuz. They talk about, we'll escort ships. Unblocking the Strait of Hormuz is not a cakewalk. It'll take a whole lot. They'll need Marines or someone else in place to control the islands, the Iranian islands in the Strait. And, they'll need to clear it for mines. They'll need to get rid of thousands of those IRGC speedboats that they would use for suicide bombings, etc. So this is a huge undertaking, and from what I can understand, there are no Marines in the area, so they'll actually have to come from the Asia Pacific theater or from the Caribbean. It's not something they can do next week or the week after. There's no
and it requires ground troops, right? I mean, ultimately, it requires ground troops. I mean, there's no ways you're going to do that from the air.
No, and Iran have got naval missiles as well, and how do they control that ground? How do they make sure that they can't use them? And they'll be launching small drones as well and stuff. So it takes a whole lot to really get a safe Strait of Hormuz, and it'll take weeks, and perhaps also months.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple questions, Jacob. You were talking about the new Ayatollah, right? You're talking about how this is a country of 93 million people. They've got 30 million people in the IGRC volunteer guard. The foreign minister the other day said, "Hey, listen, go ahead, bomb whatever. We're waiting for them. We're waiting for them. We're on the ground. We're waiting for them. Boots on the ground. That is now an increasing possibility with U.S. boots on the ground." And what I want to understand, and I think I want everybody else to understand this watching this, because you hear, at least I've heard in my last account, it was like 14 different excuses for the invasion of Iran, from regime change to a holy war, Christians versus Muslims, which is my fucking favorite. By the
the Navy. We gotta get rid of the Navy.
Gotta get rid of the Navy. And they're like, go ahead, get rid of the Navy. Go ahead, blow everything up. Go ahead and bomb us. And the foreign minister had this like calm look on his face. And he was like, we're waiting for them. We expect a fight. We expect a war, and we will win that war. Explain that, because asymmetric warfare is not dropping bombs from the fucking sky. Like, you can only drop so many bombs. Regime change has never been brought about. We know this. You've tuned us into this many times by dropping bombs on people by an aerial assault. Regime change happens on the ground. Now, the new Ayatollah, who's the son of the old Ayatollah, who before the United States and Israel killed his dad, his mom, his brother, multiple family members and friends of his in that bombing sortie, was apparently 10 times more hardline in his approach to dealing with the West and dealing with combatants, and his Muslim hardline dictatorial stance. Like, this guy is a fucking killer. And nobody can seem to be able to find him. Nobody knows where he is. But this is the vacuum. This is the vacuum when you create a theater and you cannot control that theater, and you just decide that, hey, listen, we're just going to go do something. I'm going to hide the Epstein files. And we got enough bombs to last us out. And the other thing is they're running out of munitions. But talk a little bit about the asymmetric warfare, which the United States is not prepared for. Iraq comes to mind. Vietnam comes to mind. Afghanistan comes to mind. And then talk a little bit about, the hard line, and it's going to be a generational radicalization of these people who are getting literally bombed into fucking submission.
Yeah, exactly. It's they'll try to get the U.S. into the quagmire because that plays to their advantage, and their ultimate goal is to get the U.S. out of the Middle East militarily, to get to make it impossible for the U.S. to maintain their bases in Kuwait and Bahrain and Qatar and Saudi Arabia. So they're in it for the long haul, and that's also why it's perfect for them, to be able to make this stranglehold on the world economy. And
Who's they?
On the,
Who's they? When you talk about them, what are you talking about? Are you talking about
for the Iranian regime?
Yeah,
it's perfect for them to have that stranglehold on the world economy, and not least on the Gulf economies, because they are already thinking, okay, how do we get out of this? Because our whole business model for our societies is gone.
because it isn't more than just Iran. Isn't it also Russia, and isn't it also China, who benefits tremendously from all of this? I mean, it's not. This is really the Iranians are a proxy.
That's why they're helping.
Yeah.
That's why they're helping. The Iranian, Putin couldn't give a shit about the clergy in Iran, but for him they're very useful. So the more they can menace the U.S., and also from a Chinese perspective, the U.S. is burning matches in the Middle East. That's perfect for Xi. So they'll keep the Iranians at it. They'll keep feeding them what they need in terms of tech, and also in terms of intelligence and stuff. So they'll keep this hamster wheel going.
Because
And
today we had a really big thing happen. This announcement yesterday, I guess, that Donald Trump sort of throwing under the bus Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. This notion that these two people, Steve Witkoff is a Russian asset. We can all pretty, say that pretty clearly. He always has been. He was installed in the White House by Putin. to be the what I think his official title is a Middle East coordinator, but maybe he's got some other title these days, some senior advisor capacity. And then Jared Kushner is the son-in-law. Now I wrote about this morning. There's on narrative.org where there's Witkoff, which is basically a man from the village translated from Russian, which you can loosely translate as the village idiot. And then you've got the other name that they use for Jared Kushner, which basically translates into the son-in-law. So, it sounds like a joke. It sounds like the punchline from a joke or the start of a joke. What happens when you have the village idiot and the son-in-law walk into a room with Vladimir Putin. But this is where Putin has been playing an excellent game of basically luring Donald Trump into this war. Because these two idiots really not only responsible for negotiating the other peace talks with Ukraine, but also suddenly became the experts on Iran nuclear technology in a failed talks there. And so from there, and so, they're not experts in anything, really. Of course, they're just there for Putin's, playtime. Yeah. But they've led America into this war, and they are all over the map today. We'll play you the clip in a second, but I just want to get your reaction as to these two guys who have no credentials. Steve Witkoff apparently lied about what the Iranians said to him in negotiations. And now here we are in a war, and 8 American servicemen are dead.
Yeah, I just watched the CNBC interview, and it was like crazy to hear him first go over the whole problem with the nuclear negotiations and the Iranian stance, because from one perspective he's right that those 480 kilograms of highly enriched uranium is deeply troublesome, but this bombing campaign doesn't solve that problem. It'll even make the new regime under Mujtaba al-Khomeini even more dedicated to race for the bomb. Why? Yeah. Because his father made the miscalculation that having threshold capacity would deter Israel and the US. Now that has been proven wrong. So what do you do when you're in possession of almost 500 kilograms of highly enriched uranium? Then you'd race for a bomb, and rather a dirty bomb, a simple design, than the grand thing, just to be able to get some kind of deterrence. So This is really, really dangerous. And I will tell you, if any one of our listeners thought that the operation to capture or kill bin Laden, Operation Neptune Spear in Abbottabad, if they thought that was complex, getting hold of that uranium is like, the most insane operation that would have ever been.
It's unbelievable. So you're actually saying that the world is in far greater danger of a nuclear confrontation now because the new leadership is more incentivized to get the full bomb, to actually develop the entire thing. They've only had stockpiles up until now. And that CNBC interview that you comment about it, and we'll wait for Dean to rejoin us, hopefully he will in a second, it is fascinating to me. I'll play you a clip that just was the one that they picked up on X, but he's having, it appears to me, like he's saying that he's having conversations with Putin's spokesperson that are sort of off the grid.
Witkoff. That used to be the ambassador here in Copenhagen.
I mean, well, I'm sure he's very good at what he does. And right now, he's playing the U.S. White House as fools with his relationship with Witkoff. I mean, to listen to this clip. Hey, Dean, you're back? You can hear us? I hope so.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you're a little delayed, but we'll figure it out as we go along here. Let me play you this clip, and hopefully it'll play with audio as I'm trying something new here. But let's see if it works.
I can tell you that yesterday on the call with the president, the Russians said that they have not been sharing. That's what they said. Mm-hmm. So, we can take them at their word, but they did say that. And yesterday morning, independently, Jared and I had a call with Ushakov, who reiterated the same. So, I that's a better question for the intel people, but let's hope that they're not sharing.
Let's hope that they're not sharing. Is his response?
It's definitely a better question for the intel people, but
I mean, it's remarkable.
Listening.
It's remarkable, right? I mean, that they're saying that they've assured us this is not happening, and therefore, and it's to be clear, what they're saying is that the targeting data that the Russians have alleged to be feeding Iran
Yeah.
To target ships, bases, you name it, in the Middle East, is not happening, according to Witkoff, because he's got the word of the Kremlin on this.
Yeah. And I tell you what, if we look at how the Iranians have managed to hit, not least US radar systems, really, really expensive radar system, not least in Jordan, the THAAD system, the really complex system, that takes precise targeting data. And it would be only the Russians or the Chinese who could provide it.
Right. So that's very chilling when you think about it. If they have provided all this targeting data to the Iranians, and they have all this data,
there
then
are no coincidences when we look at the pattern of what the Iranians have managed to take out with those drones, and that's quite scary.
And basically, they cleared the Middle East.
Number of ballistic missiles, etc., is going down. There could be various explanations for that, but when you saw what the Iranians have managed to take out with, drones, simple drones that Ukraine are faced with each and every day almost, then
and I think if I can, I want to ask you a question. But can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask you a question about that because, it speaks to the lack of preparedness. And you can look at, the record low petroleum reserves in the United States also as another lack of preparedness. But this is a regime that is largely, if I'm not mistaken, largely not just unprepared, but have no idea about preparedness, no idea about the theater of war. It doesn't matter what Pete Hegseth says. Doesn't matter what Donald Trump says. Doesn't matter what Marco Rubio says. These are sycophants. These are civilians. These are failures in human life that have been given these gigs to go and attack Iran. And and to that point, I don't think they know what they've done. I think they know what they're trying to use this for. Obviously, the Epstein files. This has been called Operation Epstein Fury by better people than me. But this is, from a lack of munitions to, finding out today that Ukraine offered them this cheap drone tech, $750 interceptor can take out any of these Shahed drones, knowing that 150 U.S. men and women that are serving the United States are severely or somewhat injured. And then, I hate to break it to you, Zev, that official number of dead isn't 8, isn't 7. It's more like 2022 from what I understand.
Well, the official number is 8, but you're right. The actual number might be much higher.
Yeah, it is. We know it is because this is a regime of liars. This is a regime of unprepared kakistocracists. This is a regime of completely useless fucking individuals who have no desire to fight this war. They're only fighting this war for hubris. Pete Hegseth thinks this war is a fucking holy war. Donald Trump thinks this war is going to stop everybody from looking into the Epstein files. And who knows what anybody else in the regime thinks. But this speaks to, Jacob, if I could for a second, and I would love for you to kind of feed into this. This speaks to the fact that the United States of America elected a fucking moron, a completely compromised moron, and he has hired other far more compromised morons to carry out his bidding.
Yeah, completely. I will say the exhibit number 1, if you want to say how much they've underestimated the fallout from this, is the fact that they didn't even evacuate non-essential personnel at the embassies. It was only in Israel. For heaven's sakes, if they had asked anyone with a little bit of Middle East experience, not even Baghdad, can you believe it? And they had completely missed this. And anyone with a little bit of experience in the Middle East knows that once the regime in Iran would feel, being to save its own life, they would just go ignite as many fires as possible, and that was logical. And anyone with experience would say that. So they've just refused to listen to people with actual knowledge, and it's just been a bunch of yes men.
Shouldn't have those people around them, their allies in Saudi Arabia, their allies in Israel, have also told them this information? I mean, it seems like, okay, maybe this administration are complete fools, but as they're being led into a war, would their partners say, hey, you might get your entire embassy roster blown up and your defense systems all blown up in the entire Middle East if you participate? And those allies did not say that, which makes you really question their alliances. And I also want to go back just on that point to Jared Kushner and Witkoff, because Witkoff, of course, we know his kids are heavily invested in this crypto world that Donald Trump is creating. He's got a vested interest in crypto succeeding. What's going on in the Middle East could absolutely contribute to the decline of the US dollar and the growth of crypto. Yeah. Then you've got Jared Kushner, who's $2 billion from the Saudi Public Investment Fund. He's not exactly an unconflicted character in this war. He has got huge conflicts of interest.
Now we're getting into the juice. Now we're getting into the good stuff, by the way.
That's where it's happening, I mean, it's $2 billion, and he's the one who's responsible for negotiations with Iran.
Well, and listen, let me just kind of stop you there if I can, because we've got some audio to play, if I'm not mistaken, right?
We played the Witkoff stuff while you were gone, so we played some of that.
Oh, you did? Of him blaming everybody else. I'm sorry. I had audio.
Oh, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe which clip are you looking for? Because I only got the one.
They had a feeling that they were going to come and get us first. At least that's what Steve, Jared, he's naming these guys off, and he's throwing them all under the bus because he knows this is going sideways. He knows it's a powder keg you can't put a top on again. He knows that U.S. troops are getting fucking murdered to try to help him hide the Epstein files. He knows it. That's why the SAVE Act has as part of a bill. It's like, hey, if you're military and you move, and you don't like me, you need to register to vote again, 400 times. It's craziest shit ever. But the interesting fact here, and Jacob, maybe you can shed some light on this, is that he legitimately now is saying, and he said last night, and he will say it again because he does have dementia and he is fucked in the head. He is literally saying that he went on a feeling, and that feeling was created by Jared Kushner, who took $2 billion from the Saudi fucking regime, who's going to get another $137 million in August. By the way, that's another payment that he gets from the Saudi deal that he did when he said, go ahead and kill Khashoggi. It's all good. Just give me $2 billion and I'll buy real estate all over the place for you, and we'll share in all the goods and all the riches and all the real estate stuff. Steve Witkoff, also real estate guy for the Russian mob. That's a whole other story. But now we're in a position where Jared and Steve go to Iran to negotiate in terrible faith because they know they're going to fucking attack Iran. And not only in terrible faith to attack Iran, but two of the countries that goaded the United States into attacking Iran through Jared Kushner to Donald Trump, Saudi Arabia, Israel. Now, Israel has promised Donald Trump Gaza, the Riviera of the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia has already given Jared Kushner $2 billion fucking dollars. So I'm thinking something's up here, and I would love your thoughts.
I don't know whether the Saudis have been that active in that whole scheme, because I think they would have known, that this would end up in a mess. And you have to see, the Iranians have destroyed really the business model of Qatar, of Bahrain, of the UAE, of Kuwait, and just one example of how bad this is going to go is the fact that Dubai, they get 30% of Dubai's economy has got to do with Emirates Airlines and that whole transit hub that they have they've created, and all the tourism that stems off it, and that's not going to come.
That's
back.
gone.
That's
gone.
It
used to be the party center of the Middle East, but it's no longer that, because who wants to travel there if you're going to have your hotel blown up or whatever?
Can I just feed into that if I can, just for a second? We literally
just one thing. A couple of months ago, for instance, when I went to South Africa, I went via Doha. I wouldn't consider doing that again.
No, No, no one wants to fly to the Middle East anywhere. Everything is grounded in the Middle East.
Same. I had a trip to Thailand booked for April at the middle of April. I was supposed to be gone for 2 weeks. We canceled that trip because we were supposed to spend 3 days in Dubai.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way. And we were flying Air Emirates. We were really excited. You know, my partner's one of those people that loves, like, how do we get business class for like beer class? Like, how do we do that? So we figured it out, and she's really excited. And we're going to Dubai. We're going to spend 2 days there. She really wants to see it. She knows there's a cultural appropriation she's going to have to feed into. Totally cool with it. But when they bombed the fucking airport, it was like, we can't go to Dubai. And to that point, and let me just say this about Air Emirates. They're like, we get it. Here's your money back. All of it.
Yeah.
There's no
But
cancellation.
back to this idea of whether the Saudi and the UAE actually benefit or not from this. It was my understanding that the Saudis did actually push for this initial attack on the Iranians. Is that not what you're hearing, Jacob? Is that incorrect?
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure, and I'm also starting to see a pushback already.
Well, the pushback is real. I get that, but I mean, the initial stages of this attack were they actually pushed by the Saudis to do this?
I gotta dig into Jacob. What do you mean you're seeing pushback from your intel community? Explain that.
No, from the Gulf Arab states, you know, because it's a disaster for them, and now it's about mitigating the disaster. It's not going to come back to the good old times for any one of them, but this just gets worse and worse.
But that's exactly what I was trying to get at. Was this idea that they started?
I'm skeptical that the Saudis, maybe because MBS is more of a risk taker and more rash. It could be that has changed. What always, the Saudis used to be more cautious than that, but with MBS, it's possible that he has gone further. But he's been taught a lesson now. I'd say.
I'm just curious if that has changed since the start of the war. Like 10 days ago, when they said, "Let's go to war," or "Let's attack these targets," the Saudis seemed interested in that, or seemed to be supportive, according to early reporting. Now you're saying that that's changing. I get that sense that that's this, across the Middle East, everyone's sort of having second thoughts about what they've done. Is that a change, or has that always been the case? Has there been consistency since before the war, and that initial reporting was wrong?
I think the initial reporting has been overblown.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps they've always been lukewarm. They've known about the dangers. They don't like the Iranians one bit, but they've been aware of the whole explosion of consequences. That hasn't surprised them at all.
So the scenario now is that you've got the United States and Israel alone, basically, in the world, with losing all these other allies, up against Iran, which seems, ready to stay for the long haul, backed by a supply chain from Russia and China that is going to be consistent and stands, and America's running out of ammunition, with a huge question mark about how long they can sustain this. I mean, there is a scenario floating around out there, and I've heard it from a number of people, where Iran actually wins this.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say with all the consequences that Iran has already suffered, that they are the winners. But at least they're on the winning team, because the Russians are winners, the Chinese are winners. So, in a certain sense, you could argue that that the Iranians could also be in a better position after some time. And as I said, it's going to be an even more radical regime. And who knows what Trump is up to? Who knows whether he'll start a ground invasion? But be sure that the Iranians will be, they won't mind drawing him in, because they know they can outlast the US, and that will make the US even weaker with time. So,
can you kind of
they're
speak
playing
to that?
the long game.
Yeah, well, let's get to that according to ideology and extremism, right? Like, the people of Iran, they're on home soil. It's like the people in Ukraine, they're on home soil. They're fighting for something different than someone else's war, right?
Yeah.
And set ideology apart just for a second, but not so much. Is that when you're attacking a country and you're doing it for nefarious reasons, and this, soldiers know this, the people attacking another country know this, and they all look around and look at each other. I'm sure you've had some of these experiences where you're like, the fuck are we doing here? Right?
Yeah.
That's a very different motivation. That's a very different motivation for so many people that are fighting a war on behalf of their country. And to that point, we'll get Jacob back in just a second. To that point, what a lot of people don't understand is that Iran has had 47 years to prepare for this militarily. Iran has had 47 years to prepare for this spiritually, to propagandize people over a, half a century in a country where you get access to burning books and getting rid of heretical, information about the West, and you get a chance to literally warp the minds of two generations. A generation is 25 years. They got two generations of hardliners that they've been able to say, Zev, and this as well as I do, being from that era. You got family from that era. You understand the ideology behind hardcore extremist Muslims. You understand the Abrahamic faiths. You understand the importance of propagandizing and turning people from the age of like 2-3 years old until they're of the age of majority, of the age to be able to hold a weapon, of the age to be able to understand what it's like to go, oh, okay, I get to be a martyr for the entire reason that you brought me up this way. The United States is not wired for that. They are not wired for asymmetrical warfare. They are also not wired to understand, as cool as everybody in the United States is an evangelical Christian that believes in, Christian nationalism. They're like, this is a holy war. As cool as you are, you do not understand how fucking angry these people are. There you go.
I can't hear you.
There you go.
Can you not hear us?
No.
Can you hear us? Hello, hello,
We'll
hello.
get it back.
No. Jacob, can you hear us? Hello, Jacob? No.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you.
Oh, well, that's odd. I don't know how to fix that. You have to try get back
He's
in.
gonna have to go to his dude.
I can't hear a thing.
I know. I couldn't either. Go out and come back in.
I think you have to come back. Go back.
Yeah,
I'm
pull him
going to
out,
say
come back in.
leave it on the chat.
But that's the gamble here, and that's the gamble that the United States is trying to propagandize away. That's the PR behind videos of Les Grossman, Tropic Thunder, dancing in a video where the White House puts out a video.
Let me interrupt you there a little bit and just say there's a this is more than just about propaganda. This is more than just about decades of building ammunition and plans and all of that. This is a war that America has been entrapped into, and we've been walked in there by Witkoff and Kushner, which proves the fact that it was the Russians basically who did this. They're the ones who benefit the most out of it. They're the ones who pulled us into this war. And then the other thing which really struck me, there's two other things that happened that really struck me. One is this attack on the school. Now, clearly you've got the school was attacked by American Tomahawk missiles. That's been proven now, no matter what Donald Trump wants to say about it. Now, it happened to be next door to the IRGC facility, and it's quite possible they just got the wrong information. Now, the question I have is who gave them that information? Because whoever gave them that information knew, in all likelihood, that there was a girls' school next to the IRGC facility that they were trying to strike. So you've got two situations there where America is being led into a war, and then you've got a situation where America might be led into this school attack. And then there's this third one, which is the fact that they killed all the IRGC potential successors to the Ayatollah. So you had all these people in the IRGC that Trump wanted to give Iran to, but they all died in the initial attack. That's three very big events to happen. And maybe they're coincidences, but likely they're not. Likely what you've had is America has been pulled into a war by the Russians, who benefit greatly from this, using their useful idiots, Kushner and Witkoff, that they were lured into an attack on the girls' school to make them look like they are morally bankrupt and that they have no ability to operate in the battlefield without killing civilians. And third, their safety plan, their game plan to do what happened with the IRGC after the Ayatollah is gone, well, they eliminated that possibility too. Those three scenarios make me feel like America, I mean, not only do we know this, we know the president of the United States is incompetent, but he's also incompetent to the point where he's dragged America into this war that is completely set up for him to fail and for America to be stuck in a quagmire for decades.
Such a great point, Jacob. If you can, I think that what we're talking about is the failure of intelligence in America, the belief of Donald Trump in other people's intelligence as opposed to his own, and now they're in a trap game. Now they're fucked.
Yeah, and it's very hard to see a positive scenario. That can only be a loss, and how you avoid a catastrophic loss is also very difficult to see, because there are some scenarios here where it'll take much more than I think what Trump is able to put into the game to avoid catastrophic scenarios, like what I said about the highly enriched uranium, like we talk about with the Hormuz Strait. Perhaps it could be that, if Donald Trump declares a victory and says, "Okay, we're going home, we've won," then will the Iranians necessarily open up the Hormuz Strait? Maybe they will, or maybe they'll say, "Okay." But then, okay, Gulf Arabs, no more U.S. forces in Qatar, in Kuwait, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And if that's the game, we'll open up.
And then you've got oil prices climbing, into an election where it's going to be a disaster, where the inflation, stagnation, call it what you will, is going to make it make prices impossible. You're back in the 1970s in an in a Carter type oil shortage. I mean, and I think I read today that the Saudis and other oil producing countries were cutting their output by a significant amount.
3%. Yeah.
This is a terrible scenario. It's like someone has took the entire America, put us into a film theater, set the place on fire, and locked all the exits.
Yeah. Exactly. So, how the brain trust, Trump and his brain trust are going to handle it, we'll see. But it's.
I like that you called them a brain trust, assuming there's a brain in that fucking group. It's unbelievable to me, and from an intelligence standpoint, and I am not an intelligence guy, I don't understand how geopolitics works. I understand what props up regimes. I understand what goes on in the Middle East. I think to some extent it's been a powder keg for a very long time, and someone has convinced Donald Trump that this is in his best interest. But to Zev's point, what we're seeing now with the intelligence that comes out of this war, where it's like, okay, Russia is helping target. As is, and signals intelligence with Russia, with China, helping target U.S. interests. And Donald Trump the other day was like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. And Witkoff, we have to take them at their word.
He said that today. He's like, listen, I talked to Ushakov. I talked to him, and he swore to God. Like, he swore to God. But we did not give you guys intelligence to kill U.S. soldiers.
Back in 2001 in Afghanistan, we underestimated the task. In Iraq, we underestimated the task. But now it's like refusing to use the knowledge that's there. And that is what is so insane. And
can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Real quick?
Yeah.
Because a report came out today. I wrote a piece about it at deanblundell.substack.com. That 7 months ago, the Ukrainian military, who is now interceding in the Middle East on behalf of the Gulf states, the Emirates states, and the United fucking States, with $750 to $2,000 drones to stop Shahed drones, which nobody seems to be able to do, with the exception of Ukraine. And this report said that Zelensky's team went to the White House. They said, "Hey, listen, we got a PowerPoint presentation for you. You can build a 20 million drone system in the next 5 to 6 months that will protect you and your interests around the world, and we have the technology to do it." And Trump chose instead to mock him for 7 months, call him a dictator for 7 months, tell everybody we're not interested in this drone technology. And now he's literally fucking begging Ukraine to help him because the PR is so bad. Isn't that what we're talking about? Isn't that one of the greatest examples of the hubris and the not just unpreparedness, the hubris, the bullshit, the kakistocracy, the puppetry of Donald Trump when it comes to Putin's hand being immediately up his own disgusting asshole?
Yeah, and one of the few upsides in this from a Ukrainian or European perspective is that this actually gives the Ukrainians leverage. And Zelensky said it the other day that we have to have serious diplomatic talks with the Arab states. We will help them, and then they also need to help us. So I think the Ukrainians will say, "Of course, we'll help you. We have the technology, we have the know-how." But then again, we take no more bullshit, and we don't take siding with Russia and shielding Russia, etc. I suspect that's what they'll say, and that's one of the few upsides there is.
Well, and let's talk about that upside real quick if we can. What a way to switch momentum for Ukraine! Like, what a change in momentum for them. You have every country getting attacked by something that the guys that abandoned them have caused. And now Ukraine is like, we'll help everybody, but you got to help us. Like, are those conversations happening right now that you understand?
I think so. I think they are. Because the Arabs are in trouble, and the Ukrainians know that it's now they have to do the deals. But also, from the the Ukrainians are celebrating because they know with the oil prices and Putin taking advantage of that, and they also know that the missiles for the Patriot systems will be harder to get. But I suspect due to the U.S. trouble now with the Shahids also, they might be able to say, okay, we give you Shahid, we get PAC-3.
You don't have to worry too much about it because, Americans have now got their secret weapon when it comes to drones. Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have merged their publicly traded golf course holding company with PowerUs, a Florida drone manufacturer that makes heavy lift military drones, 500-pound payload capacity, tactical defense platforms, maritime surveillance systems. And they're targeting the Pentagon's $1 billion drone procurement budget, which no doubt their father will allow them to get. This is a funny story because, of course, these two couldn't put anything together, but they are going to probably get this $1 billion funding from the Pentagon. This is the president's kids in a huge conflict of interest, obviously, profiting of war, profiting of the weapons of their father's military is going to land up buying for this prosecution of this war. It's the worst kind of example of many examples right now in America where you've got so much corruption in this military sector. There's so much interest in this war continuing, in amplifying the war effort here. And there's a lot of people that are going to be making a lot of money off it. That isn't good news for anybody.
No. But I'm sure the Ukrainians they developed this directly on the battlefield, and these things that goes on in Trump Jr.'s head and whoever else it is, and Jared Kushner. I don't think they.
You don't think it's going to match up to the skill set of the Ukrainians that they've developed? Obviously
that's just
not.
an excuse to funnel money to his kids. Like, and that's not going to stop, by the way. So just so you know, this organization is they took a holdco from one of their dad's golf courses and took a whole bunch of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars, and plowed it into this Floridian drone manufacturer that like, I mean, you manufacture drones in Florida, you're manufacturing them for a climate that is not conducive to Ukraine from like I don't know, let's just call it November to fucking March.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we'll re-engineer it, but they have the first RFP in to supply drones to the United States of America. And in the meantime, what they're doing is they're literally using Ukraine's infrastructure, Ukraine's science, Ukraine's technology to be able to protect everybody in that space. But the organization is called Powerus. Everybody needs to be aware of it. Both Trumps, including Coke Trump and Burn Victim Trump, his two kids, Uday and Kusei. The Kusei.
I used to stay in what we call the Powder Palace. That was where they kept the prostitutes for Uday and Kusei.
It was called the Powder Palace?
Did you really? When you were a
in
wazir?
Baghdad, they had.
Why was it called the Powder Palace?
Yeah, they had the little palace out in the middle of the lake at Camp Victory. And that was what we called the Powder Palace. There was a nice pool outside, and that was where they used to keep the prostitutes.
The harem.
And when
everyone needs a harem.
Allied forces came to Baghdad, you know who anchored up in the Powder Palace? The Australians.
Oh, those Australians, can't trust them. Can't trust those guys.
The HQ in the Powder Palace. Okay,
that is very funny. Why the Powder Palace? Was it called the Powder Palace for a reason, or was it just a name that it got?
Because that was where they kept the
hookers.
Yeah,
the hookers.
Yeah,
that's the hookers.
I
thought it was powder like cocaine or something like that. I thought that would have been the. I don't know what else happens with hookers. I plead innocent.
Yes, you do. You can lie all you want, but you know exactly what happens with hookers. Hey, listen, it's the oldest profession in the world. Let them have it. I have no problem
with anyone pursuing that line of work. The story is quite serious. Of course, we're facing this. The possibility now. We've had this incident in Toronto today. We've had the Toronto consulate of the United States was shot at by two people. This is miles away from the U.S. border. There's another incident that happened in Oslo. This war is coming home to North America quite quickly, and you pointed this out on your Substack as well, Dean. This is not even just threatening anymore; it is becoming a domestic security issue as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's incumbent, and the reason why I wrote a piece about it, if you go to deanblundell.substack.com, someone shot at the U.S. consulate in Toronto this morning. The full global picture is something that everybody needs to talk about, because what Donald Trump and his minions do, they like to take these different examples and then blow them up and then find a reason in the example to be able to go and do something fucking nefarious. This is no different. I've been hammering away at Nick Sartor. He and I are going at it today. It's a lot of fun. Benny Johnson, all these fucking losers on Twitter, they're like, Toronto attacked us today in Toronto. Listen, let me explain something to you about the U.S. fucking consulate in Toronto. Toronto didn't attack it. Some pissed off person shot up the the U.S. consulate in Toronto today. 5 or 6 bullets. They shut it down. They haven't been able to find the guy. But that hasn't stopped this regime from going, we need to build a wall. We need to annex Toronto. We need to fucking invade. And that's going on right now. But the one thing that nobody seems to understand, and this is fucking crazy to me, is that today, this was the 15th consulate attack on 5 different continents. This is the 15th example around the world of people who are maybe Shia Muslim, people who fucking hate Donald Trump, from Baghdad to Erbil, to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to Kuwait, to Qatar, in the UAE, Al Udeid Air Base, Bahrain, that's going on now. Dubai is going on now. Oslo, fucking Norway, 2 days ago. 2 days ago was bombed in fucking Oslo, Norway. I mean, you want to talk about a closed society that keep to themselves, who fucking hate. And keep in mind, that's the other thing, is there's sleeper cells all over the world that Iran has embedded for the last 47 years. And generally speaking, there are people who just fucking hate Donald Trump. Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That was attacked today.
DRC.
I mean, the DRC. Like,
I don't think they ever stopped shooting in DRC.
No, they don't.
To be honest.
But to your point, and to Zev's greater point, they're going to wind this up specifically when it comes to Canada. And I put a post about this up the other day because they're already working on it. I saw some intel the other day that was unfortunately shared with me where it's like the United States is going to try and frame Canada as an IGRC friendly country. And they're going to try and figure something out where they come after Canada in some policy capacity, in some annexation capacity. And today, Donald Trump referred to Mark Carney as governor of Canada, his governor of Canada. So I would love your thoughts, Jacob, if you can, about the spinning of these things. It's almost like the United States is welcoming these attacks on sovereign territory around the world for this reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absurd, isn't it? And as you said, the scary thing is that what we've also seen this in Denmark and Sweden. You mentioned Norway, that the Iranians have used, criminal gangs to try to get to the Israelis and make attacks against the Israeli embassies, etc. So all that stuff is there, and the Trump administration is acting a bit like Putin would, just like getting some excuse for doing something crazy. And it's scary stuff because you don't really know. It's extreme, isn't it?
But America's in the target as well. I mean, America's got to have this huge Iranian population. They're going to have potential.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be remarkable if there wasn't a terrorist attack that the Iranians sponsored inside the United States. I mean, it seems like that's just bound to happen. It's just, it seems like the natural revenge thing they would do. So it's not just these other countries. It's also America at home facing these domestic threats that we haven't had in a while.
Do they have those sleeper cells? They obviously do. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like Iran
The Iranian population is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've been able to do this for many years and around the world really. The MOIS, the intelligence service, and the Quds Force have been nurturing this in a number of countries, and they've also carried out attacks more or less worldwide in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia. They've come close in Azerbaijan, just to mention one example. Also, so Georgia, and in Europe, in Bulgaria, in Denmark, in Sweden, in Norway, in Holland. So yeah.
Right. We should talk about your book before you leave because we're already out of time here. And you're being praised for so much clarity in getting us a head start on what the intentions were in Greenland and elsewhere. But I'm really interested in clarity in how we get out of this situation. Like, tell everyone about your book and why it teaches you something about how we're going to get out of this situation.
Well, I will say it talks a lot about how Trump has connected with Putin over the years. It's not new information. What we've just done is get out all the stuff from the various investigations that have been and the knowledge that's there and lined it up and said, okay, this is what's happening. This is why we see Trump and Putin cooperate in Europe in various ways and be on the same side, and just getting out all the evidence, and also to see how from an intelligence perspective how dangerous it is to keep America close, because with all the loyalists that in the second Trump administration have been fed into the system, and with all the compromise that we know is there, then from human, for instance, you can't cooperate with the US. It's there's a sacred bond, and this is about physical security of human beings, of agents. So you can, and I would doubt seriously that we'd be able to recruit any Russian of of value if we couldn't guarantee that we wouldn't cooperate with the U.S. Because there would be no faith
Right in that.
and so it's got really just to illustrate all these effects of what's happening both in intelligence and security wise. And now Denmark is obviously the example, but if we get a publisher in Canada or in the US, then my thinking is to just twist it and make it more broad in European terms, to explain what it means. And
Because right now it's only available in Danish, right? I mean, so you have to. Not only is
yeah,
it a
it's
great book
only
that's super clear, but it's only super clear
yeah.
for the Danish people.
I had a Norwegian journalist here that brought it back to Norway last week. She was very interested. So maybe but she said even in Norway it has to be translated because people don't bother reading a whole book in Danish.
Yeah, but if you do read
So
Danish and you are in Canada and you want to get this book, it is called Subverted. It is
yeah,
by Jacob Jacob is how you say his name in Denmark. Jacob Karsbo, Karsbo. And I
yeah.
would encourage everybody watching this to kind of, reach into the top corner of your little Substack thing there and give him a follow. Look for him. Subscribe to him. He has been this incredible wealth of knowledge, and there is no ego on this man. He has been in the shittiest places of the shittiest places. And I got a chance to travel with him from Greenland to Denmark. And he was so kind. He brought us to his house. He and his beautiful family served us dinner. We hung out and we watched the handball championships together. Denmark beat Germany, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Very
And
important.
you will not find a finer individual, a finer human being who's in it for the right reason. So Subverted, if you do speak Danish, if you do read Danish, go and order the book. You can get it anywhere you get books. But more importantly, no matter where you are, follow this man. He is invaluable to understanding the Middle East, invaluable to understanding what's going on in the EU, invaluable to understanding what's going on with Donald Trump. And he's one of the very few people that's taken that really fucking hard line, Zev. You know the one I'm talking about, where it's like, fuck him. Like, forget him. Let's just go do our own thing. Europe, Ukraine, let's just go do our own thing. The dude is such a hard ass. He literally got in a convoy full of a bunch of Danish people. And it's like, hey, guys, let's drive a fucking ton of cars down to Ukraine and give them to the Ukrainian military and the people
I'm
that
doing
need
that
them.
in April again.
That was amazing. That was an amazing trip that you did. Those guys are doing amazing work. Are you doing it again?
Yeah, in April.
Make sure you give it up to do it live with us. You report with us as you go through that trip. It sounds
Do you need
amazing.
another driver?
Mons, I'm working to do it with him. The trouble is we usually leave on a Thursday, but we can't this time around. So it'll have to be Friday. So we just have to.
I don't think you should be going into
Okay,
war
just
zones.
letting you know, if you
But
need another driver, I'm your guy.
Yeah,
I can drive like the fucking Dickens.
terrifying.
Exactly.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'll
So
do it
we'll-
tomorrow.
yeah. We'll. I'll shoot you a message.
Okay, cool.
And if you know a publisher that will do anything for less than 100,000 books guaranteed, then let me
It's called
know.
self-publishing, I
You and
think.
I have not
I
had
know
a chance to check
they've
in.
been greedy in the U.S. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, you and I will check in together as soon as we're done this call, because I do have some information. And I sent you a note this morning, Zev, just so you know, letting everybody in on my personal relationships. I sent this beautiful man a note. I'm like, dude, I am so sorry. I have been wrapped up. I had Congressman Riggleman in town last week. We were doing other business. Jacob knows what that business is. Can't talk about it right now. But this week is my week this is my Jacob Karsbo week. I just want to let you know that. I got you.
Thanks.
You
Thanks a lot, man.
Great Jacob Karsbo joining us in the FiveStack today. Jacob, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for your great insights on everything going on in Iran and elsewhere. Really appreciate it.
See you soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Jacob. Jacob Karsbo. Dean, I'm keeping you behind a little bit because we just want to forget. We just want to underline something about ground news, which we have to do. Can you hear me still? Can you hear me?
Are you talking about my favorite news organization? Or are you talking
Yes,
about
I'm
the
talking about your
only
favorite
group?
news organization.
Dude,
You know,
I was talking about these guys today with people in a chat. So, like, my Substack, 1 year, by the way, I want to thank everybody. It changed my
oh, yeah,
life.
happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you so much. Go to deanblundell.substack.com for the next week until the 17th. We got 50% off annual
Oh,
subscriptions for new and free. Just go there, buy memberships. Doesn't matter what you do with them. I'm just so grateful. Anyway, ground news. About a year ago, I find them and I'm like, wait a second. This is like, I can tell people about where to get news. And I told people in my chat today, I'm like, hey, listen, the only news source I trust is Ground News. Go to groundnews.com. And I was a client before they became our friends, our partners here at the FiveStack. And if you subscribe today, you get 40% off. And their service is incredible. They teach you about blind spots. They'll tell you who's reading this. They'll point out the gaslighting. They just give you the facts. And in a world, specifically a post-truth society, where it's so difficult to find like people to give you real news, people that'll just deliver the facts and allow you to kind of look at it from your perspective, but also tell you, here's how this is being used. Here's why it shouldn't be used. Here are the facts. Here's the treatment. Now you're armed for the rest of your day. If you go to groundnews.com//FiveStack, you will get 40% off. There's so many people that are looking for a Sherpa in this post-truth society. And if you trust us, if you trust me, if you trust Zev, and you trust the content that we put out, groundnews.com/FiveStack. You get 40% off.
it's such a good point you're making there. The story we were talking about earlier, the story about the Trump kids investing in that drone company, that's a story we found on Ground News. And it's also really interesting, when looking at the analysis on that story, there's about 36 sources who covered that story. 48% of them leaned left, 35% leaned right. And that's really true for the way you see the way the story is covered by the different outlets. Some people have very different perspectives on the story, and you can see in the way they give you that breakdown of what the left does and what the right does, how different lenses really provide a different news story to their outlets, or to their audiences. Everyone should check out Ground News, and everyone should subscribe at groundnews.com/FiveStack, and it's where you get 40% off if you use that logon and the FiveStack code. And that is the news today from FiveStack. We're a newscast,
Tuesday?
I guess.
We Tuesday,
of sorts.
I guess so. Is this news commentary? I don't even fucking know what this is anymore.
This is news. We're doing the news.
Is this news? Are we doing news?
Yeah, we're doing the news. We're just doing the news in reverse, sort of. So today we only did the one stack. We didn't even do. It often happens that way.
We kind of mashed it all in there, but we got to the 5 nuanced stories, but it's all Iran. It's all Trump. It's all the end of the kakistocracy. That's the only thing that we give a shit about here, specifically between myself and my friend Zev Shalev. Everybody needs to go to narrative.org. Please subscribe to Zev. Everybody, and I mean everybody. His reporting is bulletproof when it comes to the financial crimes of the Epstein files, and we are on the precipice. We're real close to Pam Bondi actually standing in front of the cliff going, should I jump or should I not? We're also very close. I mean, this is the Operation Epstein Fury. This is a war predicated on him trying to save himself. We now have 150 military personnel whose lives have been changed forever, and probably close to 25 military personnel from the United States who are now dead, who are now fucking dead, because Donald Trump doesn't want you to know how disgusting and perverted he is. Donald Trump doesn't want you to know how he's protecting his friends. And I'll leave everybody with this. Thomas Massey was on a podcast the other day. The former MAGA guy. He's on a podcast. He's like, I got a call from Trump when I was trying to get this Epstein Act passed. And he said, I'm going to come after you like nobody's ever come after you in your life if you do this. Ask yourself fucking why. Ask yourself why. It's a fact that came from Thomas Massey. Everything we talked about today is to protect one man who is incontinent, one man who's a rapist, one man who has dementia, one man who likely now has cancer. I don't know if everybody's seen that giant
what is that
rash he's got on his fucking neck. Shingles or cancer. I've heard cancer. One man who is a convicted rapist, one man who is a 34-time felon, who is leading you to destruction as a country, the end of your fucking empire. So every single maggot that's out there feeding into my Twitter feed, every single person out there that's like, Donald Trump's doing a good thing. You're paying $8 a fucking gallon for gas. He's executing you in the streets. That's why we do this. That's why we exist. And I want to thank my friend Zev. I want to thank everybody for watching. You can get everything we do at narrative.org, deanblundell.substack.com. And once again, I've got 50% off subscriptions today, annual subscriptions, new and free. Doesn't matter who you are. But thank you for my first year. You've changed my life, and we're in this together. And I'm not going anywhere. Neither is Zev. Neither are you. So we want to thank you with that offer. Go to narrative.org. Make sure you fill in. Oh, yeah, you got a nice. Okay. Make sure you fill in your subscription for his account, too. Listen, for your page, share this with as many people as you can. And thank you for joining us today.
It's been a great joy being with you today. And thanks to Jacob Carsbo for joining us. Thanks, Dean. We'll see you tomorrow on the FiveStack. Until then, have a great day, everybody.